What everyday skill becomes suspicious if you're too good at it? Remembering things about people. I've lied about not knowing things to not seem like a creep. Dude, I do this all the time. I don't wanna seem like a creep either, I just have a good memory. Remembering someone else's schedule. I used to be an executive assistant to many people with specific wants and needs. I got really good at remembering what people liked based not only on what they would tell me but also the things they would do and how they'd react. I eventually became the guy that takes care of things before they become a problem. Sometimes it can be a superpower, but other times people get weirded out by it. Walking with minimal sound. I creep up on people all the time. I don't mean to, but I make almost no sound when I walk. There was a restaurant in a hired hotel that had a casino. The waiter from that restaurant remembered our preference when we showed up with a friend 6 months later. You guys were either amazingly awesome restaurant patrons or a frickin' nightmare. I'm a former waitress bartender turned RN. The same happens with patients. There was a Greek bartender at this whiskey bar in my hometown that would do the same thing. Every time I came in I looked different. He still remembered my drink. First time I was on my Holly, so I looked like a biker. Second time was a date a few months later, so I was dressed nicer and my beard was better groomed. Third time was probably just standard issue blue jeans and white t-shirt. Again a couple of months later. No matter what I was wearing or which girl I was with, or how much time passed, I'd sit down at the bar and he'd look at me for a few seconds like he was digging through his memory and say, old fashioned, right? That dude was eerily good at that and cool as sh. Counting bills quickly. Learned when in Uzbekistan, a place where the highest denomination was 1000 but a meal at a restaurant cost 20-30k. I bartended in Nig where closing time was after 4 am. So the quicker I counted out my register, the quicker I could go home. I can count a stack of bills quick. Remembering oddly specific details about someone's past. I tend to remember odd people say for years. It tends to freak people out. The worst reactions are when someone was just making up something for a story and have no memory of saying it in the first place. Being able to quickly convert between ounce and gram. Extended version always referring to kilograms as keys. I had a coworker who could weigh out items in the deli accurately to the ounce by hand. Said it's a skill from another line of work. I have a friend who could memorize numbers S plates of vehicles. He'd then be able to recall it after months in totally random conversations. So when I was young and bored on car trips, my mom would always try to get me to play the license plate game. TPE tape, terpene, terpsichore, timpani, mom. Timpani is with an I not an E. You mistype. Tamponade. Turns out the reason mom was so obscenely good at the game that she could referee it instantly and near perfectly is that apparently she is playing it basically at all times just without saying anything about it. But if something goes down, there is a near 100% chance mom will know the license plate of the car in question. She has proven this way too many times. Tamponade sounds like a drink for vampires. Noticing cameras. A friend of mine does that. He can point out any camera in public spaces. Strep throat tests. Used to get strep a lot as a kid, so by the time I was tested for it as a 20-year-old I had the process down. They stick in the big popsicle stick to hold down your tongue and then they swab the back of your throat while you try not to gag. Well, I happened to be tested by a relatively new, young, attractive doctor this particular time, and when he complimented me on doing well on the test and not gagging, my response was, "Thanks, I've had practice." If not suspicious, it was at the very least mortifying after realizing the implication of what I said. How as a nurse who has performed these, any adult that could do a throat swab with zero gag, cough, or flinch always made me wonder. Reminds me of 6th grade lunch when a guy proved to us that he had no gag reflex by repeatedly ramming a breadstick down his throat. His face started turning red and everything. The best part is that no one ever questioned his gag reflex in the first place, and I think he just wanted to show off, lol. I've forgotten my apartment key to the point that I can pick my own lock. People find that suspicious. So you would remember to take your lockpick kit with you, but not your keys? A lockpick kit works on a lot of doors, but their key will only open the one. I kid you not. When I was a kid, the apartment I lived in could be opened with a butter knife. We'd lock ourselves out and just ask the neighbor for a butter knife and get back in. Strangely, there was an unspoken code that we would never use one to enter someone else's apartment. Being able to recognize pills. No, I'm not a drug dealer. I just work in a pharmacy and some of them are very recognizable. Pharmacists are just licensed drug dealers. Remembering things about them they forgot. I told my friend I was getting a job at a store we know. She told me, I think I've been there before. Then I told she hasn't. I repeated the conversation we had, word for word. I got some weird looks from her. Lol. I'm good at stuff like that. My friend and I were talking about a hike and I mentioned that we have already done it. She said we hadn't yet. So I told her the approximate date, what we did before and after, what we talked about on it, etc. If you ask me what I had for dinner yesterday I would struggle. Staying calm. I didn't think of this answer, but it's a really good one. I've heard the phrase "how are you so calm about this" on more than a few occasions. Getting kids to trust me within seconds of meeting me. Pet nurse. That seems like a useful skill to have. But there's no way I'm going to have how to get kids to trust me within seconds of meeting me in my Google search history. In case anyone is genuinely interested, kids are smarter than adults take them for, and have a keen sense of when someone is only interacting with them out of enlightened self-interest. The main way to get kids to trust you is to interact with them with respect to their agency, and for them to understand that all of your interactions with them are only for their best interest. Kids can totally pick up on the vibes of people who see them as like cute stuffed animals or whatever rather than humans who deserve a level of respect. Source: experience as head lifeguard, digital English tutor, karate instructor. M's Excel. I found that by taking over reporting from others because it took them so much time, I'd automate it to pull from the database where the previous owner was spending 2 hours a day copy paste hundreds of cells. A couple hours work once and I hit a button. Done. I'd use to release right away, even with a script open, refresh, save, and email it. This caused people to not trust the numbers, so now I still pull in the data but hold off on releasing it for a bit, even a bit late on occasion. If you have Outlook, there's a function to delay sending an email until a specified time. You can program it to send your email out anywhere from a minute to a year after you hit send. LPT always turn the delay on for 1 minute if you tend to forget to attach attachments and remember the moment you send the email. This is literally how the series Psych starts. The main character, Sean Spencer, is too good at being observant, and because he kept sending tips to the local police, they called him in for questioning because they thought he might be involved in all those crimes, so he has to pretend to be a psychic. Cleaning liquid spills. If Junior knocks over their glass or the cat gets too close and personal with the fish tank, most people just tend to throw a bathroom towel over it or get out the wet vac. Not super effective and tends to allow time for staining. Some salt, aerosolized carpet foam, and some paper towels will clean up anything like it was never there and in record speed. And all for the low price of making people uncomfortable as they imagine you as a mob cleaner. For extra points, using this method to clean blood out of carpets or off cheap porous tile, people's faces are funny as F. I have a friend who just knows random stuff. Like he is damn near lawyer level of proficient with things like legal procedure, technical knowledge to include how to bypass code locks, is really smart on finance and how to take advantage of situations, all sorts of stuff. He's not a spy or criminal. He just loves to Google this stuff and will read for hours on end about it. But to those who don't know him, he's suspect. When my dad was alive, he was exactly like that. LMAO. Living Wikipedia. Shuffling cards. Yep. One time you show how you can deal from the bottom and suddenly you're out of the weekly poker game. Hiding things. Edit. Well, I meant keeping secrets just as much as I meant physically hiding things. I do this, only not deliberately. I can put something down then want it a minute later and not be able to find it. It's like a shitty superpower. So true. I am really good at hiding things. My mom is very bad at it. I found a lot of birthday presents before the actual day, which maybe is because if you can hide things well it is easy for you to find some. When I was younger my mom took my Wi-Fi USB stick so I couldn't really play on my PC. She just hid in her handbag. Pretty easy to find if you ask me. Women put a lot of stuff in there cause they think it's very private. However, I took that USB stick out of the handbag, knowing my mom would never recognize that's missing. too much chaos in that bag, so I just taped it under the kitchen table. Who the F is going to look there? No one, so every time she went out the house I took and played a bit till I got the feeling that she would come home soon and then taped it back under the table. Worked perfectly. When you instinctively go to private seek on your phone, I use private search for everything except porn. If Google is going to track my data, then Google can watch me jerk off. They're tracking you regardless. Private mode just keeps you from getting the reminder of your last activities. Being unbothered by blood and guts. I'm a veterinarian. I've spent days up to my elbows in all manner of bodies and parts and fluids. I can watch surgery or necropsy videos over lunch. I did an eye surgery on Tuesday and somebody had to catch the new kid. The big ones aren't allowed to get faint. It's very inconvenient. Related aside, when the nice young lady at the bank says, "Oh my god, there's blood on your shirt," assuring her that it isn't your own in fact offers no reassurance. I love animals so much, and when people ask why don't I just be a vet, it's like, I don't wanna see their insides. People that are able to drastically change their personality, or the way they talk and act when around different groups of people or someone else arrives. For me it's a coping mechanism I developed from a childhood of abuse and neglect. You have to be a different person to avoid the triggers, and sometimes it just catches you as an adult. Code switching. It's a skill I picked up in high school, because I had to navigate the norms of my church friends community, evangelical Protestant, and my real friends at school. I had stopped believing in the religious stuff by around age 16, but being open about that would have caused a ton of drama, crushed my parents, and inevitably led to lots of fights and stricter rules. So I just kept it chill around the church community while exploring a more authentic lifestyle the rest of the time, with the freedom I'd bought myself by keeping up those appearances. I don't regret that strategy at all, but it had a cost. It took me a few years of university to unwind that performative norm fulfilling instinct. A lot of my earlier relationships at that age were not as authentic as I wish they could have been, and loaded with weird resentments and insecurities arising from that inauthenticity. By the time I graduated I'd grown to a level where all of my meaningful relationships felt authentic. Just engaged with different sides of the authentic me depending on context. When I encounter people who are too good at it now, I mostly feel empathetic and sad that they aren't in a place where they feel comfortable being themselves. I will remember your car and every detail about it before I can remember your name. I've been interested in cars since I was a baby, so this is a skill I've picked up as well. Another one is being able to identify the model and trim level of a car from just a quick glance. Lying. And not like the everyday white lies like "how are you? I'm okay." No, I mean the kiss kind of lying. I am super good at lying when the need arises, like very good on the spot, and it freaked out an old friend of mine. I'm just super creative, and have a worst case scenario mind, so I think of a lot of possibilities. Same TBH, I know it's supposed to be a bad thing, and you shouldn't use it to your advantage at someone else's loss. But it's so easy, and as long as you kiss it's pretty easy to keep track of them too, so you don't get blindsided by your own stories. Fabricating stories. I had a workmate that used to do that all the time while I was on the International Space Station. Edit. Thanks for the awards. I will display them proudly on my freezer with Walt Disney's body in it. Googling. Oddly, people find it unsettling how quickly I can learn that untrained people aren't supposed to know. All I did was Google search till I found the info and then gave it a try. I'm not especially good at Googling, but it's baffling to see how bad at Googling some other people are. It's very helpful to be able to learn stuff quickly. Avoiding people. Everyone assumes I'm up to something because I spend so much time alone and out of sight. Same.